When the German woman collapsed inside an American-run POW camp infirmary in the final months of World War II, she was certain her fate had already been sealed, because for weeks she had felt a creeping numbness in her leg that spread upward day by day, and Nazi field medics had warned her that such symptoms often ended in amputation or death, especially now that Germany was losing and medical supplies were gone. So when she whispered through clenched teeth, "I can't feel my leg," she expected indifference, punishment, or at best a rough examination followed by abandonment. But what happened next shattered everything she had been taught to believe. Instead of shouting or ignoring her, the American guards immediately called for a doctor, and within minutes, an American Army physician entered the infirmary, not with threats or suspicion, but with calm urgency. Kneeling beside her bed, speaking softly through an interpreter, and gently examining her leg with a level of care she had not experienced since before the war, checking circulation, reflexes, and signs of infection, all while explaining every step of what he was doing, something that left the woman stunned, because no one had ever explained medical treatment to her before, let alone an enemy officer. She braced herself for pain, convinced this kindness was a trick. But instead, the doctor ordered warm blankets, sterile instruments, and medication she had never seen before, diagnosing severe nerve compression caused by prolonged malnutrition, exhaustion, and untreated infection. Conditions rampant among German auxiliaries and POWs in the war's final collapse, and rather than dismissing her condition as hopeless, he immediately began treatment, administering antibiotics, massage therapy, and circulation-restoring procedures, insisting she be kept under observation and fed extra rations, despite protests from camp administrators who reminded him she was a prisoner. Over the next several days, the woman watched in disbelief as American nurses cleaned her wounds daily, monitored her condition, and spoke to her gently, never raising their voices, never threatening her, and never treating her as anything other than a patient, while the doctor returned repeatedly, testing sensation in her leg, adjusting treatment, and reassuring her through the interpreter that she would walk again. Words that nearly broke her because for months she had believed her body was simply another expendable casualty of a collapsing regime. Slowly, sensation returned, first as pain, then as tingling, and finally as movement. And when she was able to stand with assistance, tears streamed down her face, not from pain, but from the overwhelming realization that the people she had been told were brutal savages had gone out of their way to save her limb, possibly her life, without asking anything in return. Later accounts from German women POWs describe similar experiences in American camps where doctors treated frostbite, infections, and starvation-related illnesses with professionalism and compassion, often using scarce supplies on prisoners simply because it was the right thing to do, directly contradicting years of Nazi propaganda that claimed Americans would torture, mutilate, or experiment on captured Germans. For this woman, the moment that stayed with her forever wasn't the medical recovery itself, but the way the doctor looked her in the eyes and said, "You're safe now." A sentence so simple and yet so powerful that it dismantled an entire worldview built on fear and hatred. Even after her release, she would later write that the numbness in her leg faded completely, but the shock of that treatment never did, because it forced her to confront the truth that humanity had survived even inside a war designed to erase it, and that the enemy she feared had shown her mercy when her own system had failed her. In the end, her story became one of many quiet, undocumented moments where compassion crossed barbed wire, reminding us that World War II was not only defined by atrocities and destruction, but also by rare, powerful instances where doctors, nurses, and ordinary soldiers chose dignity over vengeance, proving that even in the darkest chapters of history, a single act of care could restore not just a limb, but faith in humanity itself.